Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release. The circle was something I missed terribly 2 years ago when I was on sabbatical. But being elsewhere, having different kinds of experiences to strengthen my spiritual leadership was exactly the reason why you put me on that journey. There are realizations and deepenings that simply cannot happen when you are plugged 24/7 into the day-to-day. You put me on that sabbatical journey so I could find those realizations and deepenings. And I hope you've seen the difference it's made since my return. One of those realizations had to do with Oprah and TED Talks and all those inspiring personalities in our world who say such illuminating things. And one of them is most certainly Brené Brown, emotional intelligence researcher, someone who brings us back to our best selves by inviting us to lean into our vulnerability. Listen to some of her thoughts. She says, understanding the difference between healthy striving and perfectionism is critical to laying down the shield and picking up your life. Research shows that perfectionism hampers success. In fact, it's often the path to depression, anxiety, addiction, and life paralysis. And then she says, we cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known. And when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from that offering with trust and respect, kindness and affection. And then she says, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. Now, I'm encountering insights like this during my sabbatical journey several years ago. It is all so good. Now, usually, I'm too busy researching sources that are close to hand for sermons that are coming up way too fast. So, who has time for trial and error discovery of sources not close to hand? But the sabbatical gives me that time. So there I am, trial and error, exploring this and that, following my nose, no deadlines, just eating the new stuff up. Oprah and her Super Soul Sunday and her Life Class show and a million TED Talks and just so much other good stuff out there. The expertise in this world overflows. Wisdom overflows. And all you have to do is pick up a book and read, or find the right channel on TV, or just surf the web, which triggered a question in me. When the expertise does overflow, why not just stay home and tune in? Why not? Why not? I mean, in just 3 minutes of watching today's video, we learned about some of the ways we can armor ourselves against the vulnerability that is supposed to be the birthplace of innovation and creativity and change. The armor of perfectionism. The armor of numbing ourselves with food and social media. The armor of dress rehearsing tragedy, as when we behold the joy in our lives and we wonder, what if this gets taken away from me? We learned about these forms of armor, and then there was that wonderful insight about joy. Joy is the most precious, yet most vulnerable emotion. It is as fragile as a bubble. So can we let that round iridescence perch on a finger and just let it be? Or will our fear of losing it cause us to grasp for it and therefore pop it? The wisdom just overflows. And furthermore, it is so easy. You just watch. That's all you have to do. Be the audience. Someone else is taking care of the production. Oprah and her staff are taking care of all of that. You don't have to volunteer to make the experience happen. You don't have to pledge your time and your energy and your money to help make that experience happen. But circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, that's a different kind of thing. It means circle round for coordinating all the events this year related to taking a congregational stand on anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism. Circle round for teaching in our RE program. Circle round for singing in our choir. Circle round for making our Fund for Funds auction happen. Passivity is really not compatible with circle round. Circle round means all hands on deck. That's what that means. Oprah is easy. Just stay home. Watch her in your jammies. You don't have to clean up. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to brave traffic. You don't have to brave the weather. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go through all that rigmarole and fuss and hassle and falderall. So that's your word of the day, falderall. Very active UUCA member Maria Dangerfield says this. She says, here's a general rule of thumb for parents. Add 15 minutes per person for kids and teens to get out of the door. The more people you have moving towards that door, the slower it goes, the longer it takes. And then she says, and then she says, I have been a mother for 20 years, and I have this epiphany at least once a month. At least once a month. But that's just going anywhere. What if we're talking church? Sunday morning, the mood in the house is lazy and carefree until the announcement comes. Time to get dressed so we can leave for church. Oh, I don't want to go to church! The 6-year-old wails. Why do we have to go to church? He squeals in a sound that just fingernails on chalkboard. Dear parents with young children in church, writes Jamie Brusahoff, I watch you bounce and sway, trying to keep the baby quiet, juggling the infant car seat and the diaper bag as you find a seat. I see you wince as your child cries. I see you anxiously pulling things out of your bag of tricks to try to quiet them. And I see you with your toddler and your preschooler. I watch you cringe when your little girl asks an innocent question in a voice that might not be an inside voice, let alone a church whisper. I hear the exasperation in your voice as you beg your child to just sit, to just be quiet as you feel everyone's eyes on you. Why not just stay home? Our music director, Don Milton III, told me recently that it is so cool how we get to worship in the round like we do. I've never heard, he says, a congregation that sounds better. And that's because we're singing right to each other, not up to some kind of altar. Even when we are looking at the screen to read the lyrics, we're all in the circle together, and the singing feels so rich. And yes, yes, yes. But he also says this about our worship in the round. He says, there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide. It means that you're busy typing away on your laptop during this service, and we're all wondering what you are doing. You're leaning in for a chat with your neighbor, or you're falling asleep in active process of falling asleep, and we all see you. We all see you. There's nowhere to hide. This circle is a space of Brené Brown vulnerability. Imperfections are magnified. Noise is magnified. Let's talk about noise. I asked a question about that on the city a couple weeks ago. And by the way, if you're not signed up, you're missing out. You're missing out if you're not signed up to the city. I asked that about a couple weeks ago. And it opened up a floodgate of responses. And here are some of those. As a much older member, I actually like hearing babies. Or, I think it all boils down to courtesy towards our neighbors. If you're coughing continuously, or your baby is crying, or talking, or your cell phone is ringing, I think the courteous thing to do is leave the sanctuary, at least temporarily. Or, as a stay-at-home mom who's with kids all the time, I don't want to have to deal with kids in worship. I need a break. Or, as a parent, I have no interest whatsoever in spending an hour trying to control my child while trying to have a spiritual experience for myself. Not possible and not enjoyable. Yeah. Or, I can tolerate occasional noises from children. However, I expect to easily hear the service, including the sermon and the music. Or, as I have no young children in my immediate family, UUCA is one of the few places where I get to be around kids. And so I try to enjoy it all. Or, as a working mom who doesn't get as much time with my kid as I'd like, I want to be in worship with him. Or, as a young mom, I feel isolated from adults. I long to be among grown-ups. Listen to these voices. This is what I mean when I say that this circle is a circle of Brene Brown vulnerability. We come here hungry, and we can be emphasizing different kinds of hungers. And the hunger makes us vulnerable because we might not get what we came for. And so what do we do with that feeling of, I might not get what I came for, what I need? The feeling itself is a heavy burden. Not easy, not Oprah. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all the noisiness. Maybe we shouldn't circle round after all. I wrote that. This is just grade A stuff you're getting. I'm writing music for you now. But I think we should circle round. I didn't return from my sabbatical journey all soggy and disillusioned about religious community, but instead on fire for it, even more convinced than before about its value. Yes, the expertise in our world overflows. Yes, there is an amazing TED topic for practically everything. But what is rare in this world is relationship. What is rare is personal presence. I might not be Oprah, but I'm here with you. We are in this thing together. We have history together. You see me living into the complex, messy truth, and maybe that helps you do the same. I long for aliveness just like you. I am perfectly imperfect just like you. My job is to help you live into the truth and connect with your longing for aliveness. My job is to help lead this beloved community into service for changing lives. And I'm gonna get right down into the trenches with you. That's what I'm going to do. I can do that because I am here. Oprah cannot. Oprah is not here. We have got to circle round for freedom, circle round for peace. And it is not easy. We have got to build the boat even as we sail the boat. We have to build the car even as we are driving the car. We have to build wings on our way down so there can be an up, if you get my drift. But there is nothing better than this sort of personal engagement. So says Vijaya Lakshmi Pandit, the first woman to become president of the UN General Assembly, the more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. Listen to that. The more we sweat, yes, the more we sweat to build beloved community like this one in all of its aspects, the more that beloved community radiates as a presence of peace in our world, and therefore the less we bleed in war. Personal engagement is good for the world, and it is also good for us as individuals. You don't have to be perfect to get involved. You learn as you go. You learn a lot. That was my story when I first started going to church. I got involved. I saw personal talents unfold. I realized personal limitations too, firsthand, which is okay. I realized possibilities. It was all so good because I was in a real rut in my life, and I swear to God, volunteerism at church busted me out. That's what it did for me. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. And I know it's tempting just to stay home, especially for families. So much rigmarole, fuss, hassle, falderall. So much of that to get here in the building. But I'm asking you, get here. Get here. Church cannot wait, writes Eleanor Michael, because learning to be part of a community cannot wait. And so we do force our kids into anything but sweatpants week after week. Anything but sweatpants. And faithfully occupy our spot in the easy escape route back of the church pew and feel thankful for our blessings, our church community, and hopefully our understanding pew neighbors. Don't stay home. From a recent book entitled The Spiritual Child, The New Science of Parenting for Health and Lifelong Thriving by Columbia University psychology professor Lisa Miller, we learn this. We learn that children who are raised with a robust and well-developed spiritual life are happier, they are more optimistic, they are more thriving, they are more flexible, they are better equipped to deal with life's ordinary and even extraordinary traumas than those who are not. Teenagers, in particular, are exponentially better off if they are in touch with their spiritual sides, less likely to abuse alcohol and drugs, less likely to engage in risky sex, more likely to cope effectively with depression. In the entire realm of human experience, Miller writes, there is no single factor that will protect your adolescent like a personal sense of spirituality. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. The more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. Which takes us back to the issue of noise and that horrible, burdensome feeling of, I might not get what I need. Either I'm noise sensitive and I need quiet so I can feel connected, or I'm a parent trying to have a spiritual experience, and I want my kid to have exactly that kind of robust and well-developed spiritual life that the psychologist Lisa Miller talks about in her book. And so I need space. I need understanding. Do you know what we can do with that very vulnerable feeling of, I'm not sure I'm going to get what I need? This is what we do. We armor up. We armor up. We can demand perfectionism. Either nothing but absolute silence is good enough, or nothing but a free-for-all. Kids everywhere doing whatever they want, screaming as loudly as they want, as continuously as they want. Nothing but that's going to be okay. We demand perfectionism. Or we can armor up in a way that Brene Brown doesn't get into in the video, but she does elsewhere. We can get cynical. We get bitter. We can get too cool for school. We disengage. We step back from the messy, sweaty work of peace, especially if it's not of the grand, glorious type that gets in the newspapers. Let's not armor up. Let's take that armor off. Wherever the vulnerability is felt, even if it does not feel glamorous or big, let's go there. The only way out is through. Right now, the sweaty work of peace is bringing compassion to the whole noise issue. That is it. as one congregant says, to remember to be sympathetic with all parties, parents trying to do their best, children being children, and congregants trying to have the spiritual experience that they want and need so badly. Right now, the sweaty work of peace is to clearly state that there can be an unacceptable level of noise in this sanctuary. And this is just children being children. There is no condemnation. And so the courteous thing to do, the kind thing to do for the noise sensitive among us is to step out of the sanctuary, at least for a moment. The sweaty work of peace, to develop a reasonable level of noise tolerance, one that acknowledges that the sound of a growing congregation is not absolute silence, but one that's always going to be noisy to some extent. Always, always, always. The sweaty work of peace, to be proactive with our kindness. I say that it is not enough to approach somebody and kindly ask them to go to the quiet room or to the social hall, although that's a lot better than demanding it. How about this? How about going to that mother or that father or that family and asking if you can help? Standing up for them, bringing them a soft fidget toy, offering to hold the baby and give that beleaguered parent a break. Stop seeing the situation as us versus them. I'm quiet over here and I'm disturbed, and you better get your act together over there. Stop seeing it as us versus them, and we are all in this together. That is the sweaty work of peace. The sweaty work of peace. The sweaty work of peace is to improve our quiet room, to solve the problem of the endless traffic in and out of it, the quality of the sound, the lack of video. And I also want us to seriously consider an idea that came from Dave Soleil. He says, how about piping in nice loud sound and video in a runaround/social room where no one cares if my child screams a joy or fights with her sister or cries because she gets bumped in her knee or needs a snack or has to go potty or gets bored. As parents, all of these things happen every service. This could actually be fun for the community, he says. For those whose spiritual journey is loud and full of interruptions, for those who want a journey that is as much social as spiritual, for those who want spirituality, lattes, and donuts at the same time, for those who enjoy the blissful cacophony of the human experience. Let us make a joyful noise, he says. I love it. And let me ask you this. Who will increase their pledge to make this happen? Who will give a special gift to make this happen? Because nothing happens. Nothing happens unless we make it happen. And this is an opportunity. This is love. This is good. This should not feel like a burden. This is opportunity. Who will offer up time and energy and talent to make this happen? Nothing happens here unless we do it together. I'm asking you to take up the sweaty work of peace. I'm asking you not to step back from the circle, but to step inside that circle, to be in that circle. In that circle, we experience the greatest vulnerability of all. We experience it. But guess what? Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation and creativity and change. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. It is not easy, like Oprah, but it is way more fulfilling. It is way more fun. What's better than Oprah? This circle. Amen.